was like, I made this hat, and this is why I made the hat.
Yeah.
And the stories came back. So it felt more meaningful. I mean, it was meaningful to make the hat, and it was great to like throw them out there. But was really an amazing experience. Just,
Oh my gosh, that's a profound connection to me. My daughter and I used to buy hankies, like old hankies that are printed on eBay, and we got a bunch of them once, and one of them had a embroidery that said Edith on it.
Oh.
And we just decided it was so pretty, and we decided to just have fun where we picked the first Edith we could find in the phone book.
Oh yeah.
Nashville, and she wrote a letter, and we mailed the hanky out to the person. And Edith wrote back. Her name she goes by Edie, and it turned out she was in our quilt guild. And she wrote back, and she sent us her childhood hanky collection.
Oh my goodness!
And she said,
so great.
And she said, "Gosh, this means so much to me because this is how my mother always put a little hanky with my monogram in my lunch every day."
You just don't know those
she
connections.
thought we'd found her through the guild. And I said, no, we just, I realize Asheville's not a huge place, but it was, just another reminder that there's so many missed connections and missed opportunities. And why would you do that? If you made a quilt to comfort someone, why not put a face to that in the very smallest way? Maybe it's not, maybe you're worried about, whatever contact or whatever, but I think so that's another reason why people don't label. I think another reason is just they're done. They like put the binding on and they're like, fun, I don't want to do anything else,
It's so true.
I think another reason is people fuss over it, like it has to be perfect and archival, and it doesn't. It can just be a Sharpie on some muslin.
Oh, that's good.
That is much better than nothing. And I think people also think, so we're also really promoting and advocating for people to label quilts that they already own, or that they acquire, maybe that they didn't make.
Yeah.
Because those quilts in a sense are more at risk of being anonymous than the current generation of quilts that people that own them have made themselves, because they're probably a little more likely to put something on there. And they're at least going to be, it's more likely that the maker of that quilt is still living, if it's a new quilt. So we're encouraging people to label quilts that, that they have around the house, even if because I've seen quilt historians who simply looked at a fabric that's on the back.
Right. And they know.
And they said, oh yeah, this is probably made in Statesville, North Carolina, because there's a mattress ticking fabric there. Factory there. And this person probably worked there, because all the person had to tell her was somewhere in central Piedmont of North Carolina. And she said, oh, well, it's mattress ticking. And I know that there was one in, you know what I mean? Like, so
right. They know. It's amazing, right?
Crumb that a historian can grab onto. So there are many reasons, but we're trying to combat that with the labeling pledge, but also we give, a sample of a label at the end of the presentation. And now we're trying to set up a thing where when people just take it, label it, and then post a picture so everybody can prove that they actually labeled it.
So I will take the pledge. I will start the label.
Okay,
It'll be good. That's great. I love it. All right, tell me about National Quilting Day.
So National Quilting Day was started by the National Quilting Association, NQA, and they were last based in Ohio and did a show in Columbus, Ohio each year, a quilt show. And they unfortunately had to go out of business 2 years ago, and passed that responsibility on to us, to our, delight, because we felt like that was a good role for us to play and to carry it on for them, because what they had done was just sort of to take a day in March. It's the second or third Saturday in March. This year it's on St. Patrick's Day, which is not the greatest, but we'll make green quilts. But their objective was to bring awareness to quilting, not just by quilting on that day, but by sharing quilts on that day. So last year was the year I went to the Durham Bulls Park with a group of other quilters, and we all sat in the stands and worked on quilts. And they were trying to break a record of the most people quilting in one place, and it failed miserably, but we had a good time. And
Love
so,
it.
from our perspective, National Quilting Day is an opportunity for people to talk about quilts, anyone to talk about quilts and think about their collection. So what we'll be doing is encouraging people to share stories, share
Interesting.
quilts, label a quilt, take the day to do a recording. One of our newest projects is called Go Tell It at the Quilt Show.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
And so Go Tell It we started it, I think it was 2012, and it's a short video project, because what we're finding is that our QSOS project is a long form oral history project. So it's
Right.
30 to 45 minutes, and you sit down with a quilter who made the quilt and talk to them. Well, what we were seeing happen at quilt shows and events where the people would come up with a great quilt story about a quilt they owned but didn't make,
Mm-hmm.
or a story about their grandmother who made quilts. And these stories would be fantastic and rich, and like, I would really love to document that, but we really
Yeah.
don't have a project that fits that.
Yeah.
We also found just the general nature of human beings has turned to a shorter sort of attention span
Hugely.
in especially in social media. So we wanted something that was a little bit shorter and that was video. So we wanted to see what it was like to watch the person telling the story about their quilt. So Go Tell It at the Quilt Show, or we just call it Go Tell It now, because a lot of times it's Go Tell It on the radio, or Go Tell It at the museum, or Go Tell It at the guild meeting. And so it's the formula of one person talking about one quilt in front of one camera for 3 minutes.
It's so great.
Yeah, so it's very simple, and it's very much a public submission model.
That's so great.
So we're doing it with our amateur video camera, amateur to mid-range video camera when we do them, but I've also done them. I did one with me talking about quilt that was made for my daughter, with my cell phone and a yoga mat holding it as the
That's really
tripod.
great.
So,
That's
anybody
great.
can do it, and we have a
Yeah.
spot for them to upload it, but they can just put it on their YouTube channel too.
Oh,
The
that's so
important
great.
part for us is not to actually collect them
Yeah.
ourselves, but to have them made. It's similar to one of our inspirations is the StoryCorps model that NPR is broadcast, but is not the originator, but the model of sitting down with someone and talking, only this is the person talking without any kind of lead in or questions. They just talk about whatever they want to say about a quilt. It could be technical, it could be narrative, it could be about the artistic inspiration of the quilt.
Very
And
cool. Cool.
yeah, they're amazing.
Oh, I love it. I'll have to go. And then can you go and listen to them? Are they available?
Yes, on our
That's
YouTube
great.
channel, there
Oh, that's
are,
great.
I think, almost 400 of these now.
That's really
So
cool.
yeah, and they range from someone talking about, there's a gentleman who talks about his wife's quilts. So it's not just the quilter talking about their quilt. As I said,
That's
it's,
really great.
anyone associated with who has a quilt or has a relationship with a quilt. And he talks about how he's in charge of keeping the cats in line while she's quilting, and he
That's a
talks
very
about,
important job.
yeah, it's adorable. And then, there are people who are talking about a quilt made for, a mourning quilt to get through the process of grieving.
Yeah.
There are a lot of
Really.
quilts that people make to
Right.
process emotions. That's a
Right.
common reason for
Yeah.
making artwork or an object like
Totally.
that.
Yeah. That's very
So
interesting.
yeah, so
Love it.
that's one of the things that we're doing in our roadshow is demonstrating the project for those who want to do it themselves, or going in and actually doing the recording with the guild and group, so that they come away with it at the end of the workshop. They have, between 10 and 20 finished videos that they can then share on their site too.
And how much if somebody and a guild is listening to this, we haven't gone live yet, but if once we do, how much does something like that cost to have it come to
Right.
your guild?
So they can become a group member of the Alliance for $200, and then
Huh?
for another $200 do the lecture. So $400 for the lecture, And then I think it's another 300 or 500 for a half or full day lecture. So we really used current pricing of what others were offering their services for to guilds. And we don't have a full schedule at all for 2018, but we have a start.
That's very cool. And
Yeah,
then do you have, does that include, do you cover travel, or does that plus
they
travel?
cover travel.
They cover
Yeah,
travel. So it's like the fee plus travel. And how many come
right.
when they come? Is it one per, like
It's
who
typically
comes?
just one staff member. So I'm doing them, and my colleague Emma Parker, who I think you met,
Uh-huh.
she's our project coordinator, project
Fabulous.
manager. And so it's either one of us, but we're also working on a model to have ambassadors who are volunteers from our organization to
Nice.
offer the workshops when maybe the guild can't offer travel expenses, but we could find someone locally to do it.
Very
So,
cool.
yeah.
Love it. Really interesting. Okay, tell me about Quilters Take Manhattan.
So Quilters Take Manhattan is a fundraising event that we did for 8 years, and we're not doing it this year because we found it to be just, a lot of challenges to doing an event in New York, but mostly it was just not raising the kind of funds that it needed to
Yeah.
be able to continue it. But we have had incredible presentations, lectures from Denise Schmidt, Carolyn Maslumi, Kay Fassett, Ricky Timms, Victoria Finley Wolf. We've had authors and quilt makers, quilt
Yeah.
historians. So it was really the right thing for the right time.
Very
But
cool.
now we feel like it is that time for us to take the opportunity to go around, to go beyond just the big cities, but find the smaller groups that are interested in having this kind of presentation.
Very cool. Love
Mhm.
it. All right. And what about the contest? What role do the contests play in Quilt Alliance?
The contest has been a great way, as you say, your project is sort of trying to get an idea, an overall look at what's going on in the industry. Our
Yeah.
contest has been geared towards taking a snapshot of what people are making in any particular year.
So cool.
So yeah, so we've always kept the theme open-ended. We've had some quilters who have made a quilt for our contest every year, and it's a donation because we then auction off the quilt.
Right.
So some absolute masterpieces,
They're
and
incredible. I mean, they're they I
incredible.
mean, they run the gamut, but like they're
Yeah,
gorgeous. They're
yeah,
really just gorgeous.
yeah.
They're
It's an
small. Are they always
incredible.
small? How big are they?
They have ranged in size, but the last one was 16 by 16. And we're taking a break this year because of our emphasis on education and outreach, but we hope to be able to bring that back at some point. We've had such a dedicated group of artists, and it's a nice opportunity for people to try something different at a small scale,
Yeah.
or try entering a contest if they've never done that
Right.
before. So our plan is to try to sync that with our workshops so that we're actually offering a workshop on the contest that would,
Oh, it's
end
a
in
great
making
idea.
a contest quilt.
Right,
But for
right,
now,
right,
we've got to sort of get our roadshow program
right.
figured out. But yeah, we have all of those quilts are documented in the Quilt Index and on our website. So it's also a way to have a piece of your work sort of archived in that greater collection.
Love it. Now, what happens to so you did an auction. What happens when they don't sell? Where do they go? And
When
does
they
the
don't,
auction continue, or are they for sale, or what
no,
happens to
we're
them?
kind of trying to work that out right now because we do have, some on hand that didn't sell, and we're probably, well, the artist will have a say. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll probably offer them to have the quilt returned,
Mm-hmm.
or find another way. There's such good, I take a lot of those quilts with me when I go to make a lecture because it's so easy to use them as examples for different things.
Totally.
This is a label that someone made to really coordinate with the front of the quilt.
Yeah.
I am a huge lover of the backs of quilts. I wanted to get our team to do a whole exhibition of quilts
That would be so cool.
facing backwards called the
I think that's
backstory,
so
right?
cool. That would be so great.
Okay, we'll do
That
it.
would be amazing. Totally. That's so great. I love it.
It wouldn't it be interesting? I
I
mean,
wonder,
I think
yeah.
that it could turn for some part of the exhibit and maybe just be, on an exhibition